50. Challenging questions for skeptics and non-believers who deny God in 1 Timothy 3:16. If God, theos, was a later addition, why does Codex Alexandrinus, 5th century AD, contain it? Why do the majority of Greek manuscripts, Byzantine text tradition, have God instead of He? Why did John Chrysostom, 4th century AD, quote 1 Timothy 3:16 with God if it was added later? If early manuscripts had only He, why did the Syriac Peshitta, 2nd century AD, translate it as God was manifest in the flesh? How do you explain the Gothic Bible, 4th century AD, including God in 1 Timothy 3:16? Why did Gregory of Nyssa, 4th century AD, explicitly reference God was manifest in the flesh? If God was added later, why does Codex Ephremi Rescriptus, 5th century AD, support the same reading? Why does over 95% of all Greek manuscripts confirm God rather than He? Why do early Latin translations, pre-4th century, contain God in 1 Timothy 3:16? Why did Didymus the Blind, 4th century AD, also quote 1 Timothy 3:16 as God was manifest in the flesh? How do you explain that even non-Greek early manuscripts, like the Coptic translations, contain God in this verse? If He was original, why do most ancient Bible translations disagree with modern textual critics? If early scribes changed He to God, why is there no historical record or controversy about such an alteration? Why does the Greek abbreviation for God, theisi, in early manuscripts show clear markings of divine reference? Why would the overwhelming majority of scribes across centuries independently agree on God rather than He? If He was the original reading, why do we not find early church debates about such a significant change? Why do secular historians acknowledge that early Christians believed Christ was God manifest in the flesh long before the KJV? Why do Greek-speaking church fathers confirm God in 1 Timothy 3:16 if it was supposedly altered later? Why do Nestorian and Eastern Christian traditions maintain God in 1 Timothy 3:16? If He is correct, why would early scribes not have clarified the passage, knowing how much it could affect doctrine? If Jesus is not God, why does Paul call Him the great God and Savior, Titus 2:13? If He was the correct word, how do you explain the context of the verse, which clearly speaks of God? Why does the King James Bible follow the historical manuscript evidence while modern versions do not? If God was added later, why does modern scholarship struggle to provide a consistent alternative? Why do modern translations favor the readings of a few corrupt manuscripts rather than the vast majority of preserved texts? How can skeptics claim God is an error when it aligns perfectly with the theology of the entire New Testament? Why does John 1:14, the Word was made flesh, perfectly parallel 1 Timothy 3:16, further proving the divinity of Christ? Why did the majority of English Bibles before the 20th century include God in 1 Timothy 3:16? Why do old sermons and commentaries from church fathers and reformers use God instead of He? If God was a mistake, why would the oldest complete Greek manuscripts contain it? If He was the original word, why is there no clear grammatical subject in the sentence without God? Why do critics assume God was added but refuse to consider that He might be a scribal mistake? If early scribes supposedly changed He to God, why do we not see such alterations elsewhere in Paul's letters? If Jesus is just a man, why does Colossians 2:9 say that in Him dwells all the fullness of the Godhead bodily? Why does John 20:28 record Thomas calling Jesus, "My Lord and my God," and Jesus never correcting him? Why do even hostile sources from the 1st and 2nd centuries acknowledge that early Christians worship Jesus as God? Why does the Greek Septuagint use theos, theos, in ways that match its use in 1 Timothy 3:16? Why does modern textual criticism rely on a few late and unreliable manuscripts rather than early widespread ones? Why did early church martyrs die for the belief that Christ was God manifest in the flesh? If Jesus is not God, why does Isaiah 9:6 call him Mighty God, Everlasting Father? If he is the correct word, why do Trinitarian doctrines remain consistent with both renderings? Why does 1 Timothy 3:16 agree with Philippians 2:6-8, which states that Christ, being in the form of God, took on flesh? Why did William Tyndale's Bible, 1526, Geneva Bible, 1560, and KJV, 1611, all retain God in 1 Timothy 3:16? If God was not in 1 Timothy 3:16, then skeptics must explain why the oldest, most reliable sources contain God, why the vast majority of ancient manuscripts and translations support it, why early Christian scholars, church fathers, and reformers defended it. If Jesus Christ is not God, then why does all evidence, historical, biblical, and manuscript, point to the fact that he is indeed God manifest in the flesh?